It's the biggest mistake travelers make when packing for Italy. Hi, I'm Anne from Our Big Italian Adventure, and today I'm going to talk about everything I'm going to take for 3 weeks, including 4 days in Rome, 4 days in Florence, and almost a couple of weeks bopping around the hill towns of central Italy. I'll start with what I'm putting in my suitcase, and then I'll talk about my personal item as well as my purse. And I'll show you how to avoid the biggest mistake that travelers usually make when they pack for Italy. Andiamo! If you're watching this video, you probably have a trip to Italy planned for sometime soon, and you might be freaking out just a little bit about what to take, how much to take, and how to fit it all in your suitcase. After all, you want to dress appropriately, you want to look good, you want to feel good, but you don't want to drag around a lot of stuff that you really don't need. I've been traveling to Italy for years, and I've made every mistake in the book, but now I have this packing thing down to a fine science. I can pack everything I need for a 3-week trip in a carry-on bag, plus a personal item and my purse. And I'll show you how you can do it too. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, what kind of trip is this going to be? And what sort of activities are you going to be doing? Is it mostly visiting cities and museums and stuff like that? Or will it be a more active vacation out hiking in the countryside or going to the beach? And do you have some sort of major event planned? Are you going to a destination wedding? All of those things will factor into what you pack. If you'll be spending a lot of time in cities and planning some nice dinners out, you may be wondering, how dressed up do you need to get? After all, you may have heard that Italians tend to dress up more and be more stylish. And the fact is, they do tend to get dressed nicely. But it's not that they put on fancy clothes, they're just a little more intentional about how they put everything together. So if you bring something like black pants and a nice sweater or a nice blouse, maybe a scarf, then you'll be fine to go out to dinner. You don't need to get all dolled up. The second thing I do is check the weather. And a couple of weeks out, I'll just check out the sort of historical data for temperatures and precipitation in the parts of Italy that I'll be going to. And then when we get closer in, I'll actually look at the weather forecast for the coming period for those areas that I'll be visiting. So it looks like for me, in April in Italy, the highs are going to be probably high 60s, maybe 70s, and the lows will be 50s. So I'll have to dress accordingly. The third thing I do is I start to assemble the clothes that I want to take. And this is the place that people go really wrong when they start packing for their trip to Italy. In fact, it's the biggest mistake that travelers make when they're packing for Italy. And that is that they try to bring too much stuff in too big of a suitcase. Now, I know you want to look good and you want to have choices about what you wear, but if you plan right and pack smart, I promise you that you can fit what you need into a carry-on size suitcase. Because here's the thing, even if you plan to check your suitcase, there are so many other reasons why a carry-on bag is really the way to go. And that is, once you get to Italy, you're going to be lugging that thing over cobblestone streets, and lots of the streets, especially in the historic parts of Italy, are cobblestones. The sidewalks are uneven. There are stairs everywhere. When you check into your hotel or your Airbnb, there are bound to be some stairs that you have to go up, and sometimes they're narrow and steep stairs when it comes to an Airbnb. And even if there is an elevator, they tend to be really tiny, and you can only fit like one person and one small suitcase in the elevator at any given time. And then there's the trains. If you're traveling at all within Italy by train, you're going to have to hoist that bag up onto the train. And once you get on the train, you're going to have to put it up in the overhead bin thing, which is not easy. And finally, if you're planning to visit Venice, well, there are going to be tons of bridges and stairs over the bridges that you're going to have to cross every time you want to get from one side of a canal to the other. So for all those reasons, a carry-on size bag makes sense. Taking too big of a suitcase with too much stuff in it is actually the one biggest thing that travelers to Italy regret the most. In countless Facebook groups and forums, etc., people will say, if asked, what's the biggest regret about your trip to Italy? They'll say, people told me not to bring too big of a suitcase and I didn't listen. I really regret that. All right, I've said my piece about the carry-on bag. Now, if you're worried about having clean clothes to last you the whole 2 or 3 weeks of your trip, here's the hack that Ed and I use when we travel. Whether we're staying in a hotel or not, we always try to book an Airbnb for a couple of days halfway through the trip. Why? It's because most Airbnbs will have a washing machine. Now you need to check the listing because they don't all have washing machines, but many do. So check the listing. Now they won't likely have a dryer also because dryers are just not as big of a thing in Italy. What they'll have is a drying rack. So what I would suggest is book that Airbnb for a couple of nights. You can wash your clothes and then hang them up to dry, and in a couple of days, they'll all be dry, even your jeans. Now, if an Airbnb is not in the cards, there are laundromats everywhere that you can use. And if push comes to shove, you can also rinse out some stuff in your sink and hang it in the bathroom. Now, some first-time travelers often make the mistake of trying to pack a different outfit for each day of their trip. Don't do that. Instead, your goal should be to create a little capsule wardrobe that meets the following 4 criteria. First, that all of the clothes you bring should be able to be worn in multiple situations for multiple days. Second, you should pick clothes in a limited color palette, mostly neutral colors. Third, all of the tops should be able to go with all of the bottoms so that you can mix and match and make lots of outfits. And that way you won't get bored with your clothes. And fourth, they should be able to be layered so that you can put an extra layer on if it's cool and take a layer off if it's hot. Spring is a shoulder season, so there's a lot more variability to the temperature and the climate than there is, say, in the dead of summer or the dead of winter. The temperatures can range from the 50s to the 80s with warm days and cooler nights. So that's why layering is so essential. Also, keep in mind that in the springtime, there is likely to be some rain, and so you definitely want to have a rain jacket for that. So when I start planning what I'm going to bring, I usually start out with more stuff than I'm actually going to end up with, and then I put all the pieces to the test of do they go together, etc. And what I do is I bought this cheapo rack at Amazon and I hang everything up here, and then I can more easily see what I've got. And then I use what is called the 5-4-3-2-1 method of packing, and that means 5 tops, 4 bottoms, 3 pairs of shoes, 2 toppers like a sweater and a jacket, and then 1 extra item. It could be a dress, it could be, in my case, it's going to be probably the raincoat. So that's how I start. Now, I don't usually end up with exactly that number of things in each category, but it's a great starting point and it sort of keeps you from getting out of control. So also, now this is absolutely key. You don't want to bring any more than 3 pairs of shoes. You can throw in some flip-flops, that doesn't really count, to wear around the hotel or at the pool. But what you want to do is bring at least 1 pair of really sturdy, broken-in sneakers or walking shoes, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking. And I always bring actually a 2nd pair of sneakers. So I'll bring my gym shoes and then I'll bring another pair of sneakers that are more fashion sneakers. They're comfortable for walking, but they look cute with dresses or skirts or pants or just about anything. And then in the summertime, I might bring a sturdy pair of sandals, something like Birkenstocks, with a thick sole so that when you walk over the cobblestones, you don't ruin your feet. In the spring and the fall, I would bring maybe a pair of loafers. And then in the winter, I might bring a pair of booties. Okay, so here's what I'm bringing, and I've put a couple things off to the side that I've decided not to bring. My color palette is, again, neutral. Now, a lot of people bring gray and black as their neutrals because obviously they go with everything and they don't show the dirt and everything like that, but I look like horrible in black, so I'm not bringing any black. Instead, my neutral palette is blue, navy blue, cream, and some olive with a couple of accents in there. So then I usually start with bottoms because then it's easy to get my bottoms sorted out and then I can just pick tops that go with all those bottoms. So for my bottoms, I've got a pair of jeans, another pair of nicer navy blue pants. I've got some linen wide leg pants. These are from Old Navy. I think they cost like 30 bucks. And then I've got these stretchy pants from Athleta. And they really look nice, but they're comfortable enough to wear on the plane, and I can even wear them if I were to go hiking or something like that. So those are my 4 pants. Now, then for tops, I've got, because it's springtime and the weather's gonna be variable, I've got some long sleeve and I got some short sleeve. So for short sleeves, I've got this gauze top. And I love these gauze tops because they're sort of pre-wrinkled. You don't have to iron them, they don't wrinkle, and they look great. I've got another short sleeved top from Loft, a plain white tee, and a navy blue and white striped shirt from Bowden. And then I've got a navy long sleeve tee and a striped button up. So those are my shirts. I've actually got 6 of them here, but I'm wearing one on the plane, and what you wear on the plane doesn't count in your number of outfits. So, and then for toppers, I've got this really cute white cardigan. It's cotton, so it's not too hot. And then I have a navy blue V-neck sweater and a little jacket. I debated whether to bring a linen jacket, but I think since it's spring, this one's just a little warmer. And if I need a layer that's warm, this will do the trick. So those are my clothes. I will be picking one of these bottoms, one of these shirts, and one of these toppers to wear on the plane. Now, as for shoes, so here are my shoes. I've got these Brooks walking shoe or sneakers that are, my heavy duty walking shoes. I'm going to put a lot of miles on these babies. And then for my second pair, I've got these New Balance shoes. So they're cute. They can be worn, dressed up or not. And then these are new. I've got these loafers from Vionic, and I just got them and I've only worn them a little bit, but the leather is incredibly supple and soft, and literally you can wear them right out of the box. So when I want to look a little more dressed up or elevated, I've got these loafers. So you can see that with just this limited number of clothes, I can make over 25 or 30 different outfits. So for example, I can take these linen pants and they will go nicely with this top, or they go nicely with this top, and I can put them with a white t-shirt and then maybe a little jacket. Maybe I can wear this sweater by itself as just a top, and I can put it with this top. I think you get the idea. Or, for example, here are my jeans. I can put them with this top. Put them with this top. And of course, any of these go with any of the toppers. I can put them just with this white t-shirt, and I can put it with this, and it all looks great. So no need to bring a ton of stuff. So now that I've chosen the clothes that I'm going to take with me, I'm going to pack them and see if they actually fit into my suitcase. But first, we need to talk about packing cubes. I love packing cubes, and I always use them. They're great for a couple of reasons. One is if you pack them tightly, your clothes don't wrinkle as much. But for me, what's even more important, if you're going to be moving from hotel to hotel and from place to place, and you're going to be packing and repacking and unpacking, what the packing cubes enable you to do is to find what you're looking for without ripping your whole suitcase apart. So they're kind of like having dresser drawers in your suitcase. So I tend to pack all my tops in one packing cube, all my bottoms plus my pajamas in another, and that way I know where I can find the things I need. And then I pack my underwear into a smaller one, and I've already done that, so you don't need to see it. Now, people ask me, well, should I use a regular packing cube or a compression packing cube? The compression packing cubes can be good because they allow you to pack more stuff because they suck the air out of the cube and it allows you to cram more stuff in and it compresses it. But the disadvantage of that is, of course, it makes your suitcase heavier because you've got more in there. In this case, I don't think I need compression packing cubes, so I'm just going to use the regular ones. Here's my suitcase that I'm bringing. It's called the Away Larger Carry-On, and I've had it for years. And it is compliant with the restrictions on airlines like United and American, which is how we usually travel over to Italy. It is not compliant with the restrictions that some of the other airlines have. So you wouldn't be able to carry a bag this size on. Away has a smaller carry-on that would work for those other airlines. The thing is that once we get to Italy, we always travel by train. And so the size of our suitcase doesn't really matter, at least as far as restrictions go. So the clothes are gonna go here on my right. And one thing is the trolley handles stick down here, and there's actually room to put a fair amount of stuff between them. So before you put the packing cubes on, you can stick random miscellaneous stuff, like I have a scarf and other stuff that you might have, a swimsuit or whatever. Okay, so that's important. Now, then I just pile my packing cubes, which are perfectly sized, right on top of this. And then I will put my rain jacket right on top and then close this thing. Let's see if it fits. Kind of squish everything in there together. Okay, and then on this side is everything else. So I've got my underwear and my shoes, and I'm wearing my bulkiest pair of shoes, so I only actually have to pack 2 pairs, and I'll stuff the socks down in my shoes, and I can lay them in here, and there's no magic to how your shoes go. They don't have to be together. They just need to be in there somehow. Okay, and then this is my toiletries bag. It's everything except for my liquids. So it's got solid stuff and my toothbrush and my cosmetics and things like that. And this is a nifty bag because it has a hanger, and you can hang it in the bathroom, which in Europe is key because they almost never have counter space in European bathrooms. So I like it for that reason. And then it zips up like this, and it's very compact. Then I have my comb and brush, and I have a belt. You'll notice that I did not pack a hairdryer, and I do use a hairdryer, but I have found in all my travels that pretty much every hotel and every Airbnb will have a hairdryer. So no need to waste precious space in your suitcase bringing that. Now, what you probably won't find in Europe is things like flat irons and curling irons and things like that. So if you need to bring those, make sure that the one you have is dual voltage, and there will be a little knob that twists to the right that goes from 115 to 230 or 240 or whatever it is. You can get those, by the way, on Amazon. And otherwise, if you try to plug in your normal American appliance into a plug in Italy, even if you have an adapter, it will fry that appliance because the voltage is twice what it is here in the States. So you either want a dual voltage appliance or you want to buy a converter, which is different from an adapter. The converter will convert the voltage from American to European, and it'll keep your appliance from frying. So anyway, I've still got room here, which is good in case I have any souvenirs to bring. I zip this up. And I did not pack this little jacket because I'm always cold and I'm going to have to wear this one on the plane. And then we just zip it up and we're ready to go. All right, now let's talk about what I'm bringing for my personal item. Now, most people bring a tote, and a tote's fine. I tend to be a hands-free girl, so I like to bring a backpack. And a couple of trips ago, I got a new backpack, which is this one from Osprey. And it's perfect because it's not too big, but it's big enough to hold everything I need, and it does have an expansion section in case I want to bring anything else or bring back souvenirs, importantly. So this is what I bring in my personal item bag. First, I bring my laptop because we do a lot of work when we're traveling, and I put that in. The second thing I do is, even though we don't check our bag, I always bring a change of clothes, like a t-shirt, a pair of leggings, some socks, and a couple of pairs of underwear. And I put those down into the bottom of my backpack, because there are going to be times when you have to check your bag or you want to check your bag, and just in case, it's good to have some fresh clothing if things don't go according to plan. I also bring my iPad for reading. Importantly, I have some noise-canceling headphones. These I use primarily on the plane because they're a game changer. If you want to watch TV shows or a movie, it's almost impossible to hear over the engine noise unless you have these kind of noise-canceling headphones. Then I have my tech bag with adapters and chargers. I've got a power bank. That's important because, you know, you kill your battery on GPS and filming all day, so it's nice to be able to charge your phone. I've got this cool universal adapter. You can use it in apparently any country in the world because it has different things that pop out depending on where you are and what kind of plug you're going to use. So this one, and then it has a couple of USB-C ports and a couple of USB ports. And then I have this nifty little pod which will charge my Apple Watch, my AirPods, and my phone. And then it folds up into nothing. And other random cords and stuff. So I put that down in there. This is important. I've got my liquids for TSA in this clear plastic bag. And I also have my medications in here. And this is really important. You need to bring your medications with you in your personal item. Never put them in your carry-on bag. And again, even if you're carrying it on and not checking it, you don't want to put your meds in there because there may be a time that you do have to check your bag. So keep them with you at all times. So that goes in here. I always bring some wet wipes because they come in handy sometimes for many uses. I have this little fold-up shopping bag. It folds up into this little case, but you know, when you go out and go to the grocery store or you're buying souvenirs, this comes in handy. And then of course I always bring a little notebook and a pen to take notes of what we've done and seen. And that is about it for my personal bag. And the only other thing I would say about that is you always want to leave some room at the top of your personal bag for your purse, because there are going to be times when you're getting on the airplane and they only allow 2 items. If you're bringing your bag along, your suitcase along with you, and you have your personal item, they would consider your purse a 3rd item. So I always put my purse, I make sure it fits down in here in the event that I have to stick it in there to get on the plane, and then you can get it out. So that's my personal item. All right, let's talk about my purse. Now, the first thing I would do is say, if you're going to Italy or frankly on any trip, you should have a crossbody bag with a zipper compartment. And that's for safety and security reasons so that pickpockets can't steal your stuff. You may feel more comfortable if you get one of those anti-theft, anti-slash, RFID blocking purses with locks on it, and you can get those on Amazon. And if that makes you feel more comfortable, by all means get one. I don't do that. I prefer having kind of a nice looking bag. Last 2 trips I've taken a wonderful suede bag from Quince, but since it's spring it's feeling like that's too wintry, so Quince has kindly gifted me this crossbody bag, and it actually has 2 zippered compartments plus a center compartment which snaps. So I'm going to tell you what I bring in it. The first thing I put in here, of course, is my passport. You don't want to forget that. And make sure that it's valid for more than 6 months from your trip. Also, if you're going to be driving, be sure and bring an international driver's permit, which you can get at AAA for 20 bucks. It's quick and simple. And if you're going to rent a car, you're going to need it. And they may not ask for it at the rental agency, but believe me, when the cops stop you and ask for it, you don't want to be fined, and that's what will happen if you don't have it. So do that. Okay, next. The first thing is, I also don't bring my wallet from home with all those millions of credit cards and other stuff in it. I just bring this tiny little thing, and it has some compartments, and I put my euro up here. I have a little compartment for change, and then one for my couple of credit cards and a debit card that I bring to use in the bank cash machine. So I bring that. I have my sunglasses. I have my reading glasses. Of course, I have my phone, my AirPods. I always bring tissues just to not only to blow your nose, but in the event that you find a bathroom that doesn't have toilet paper, it's good to be prepared. And then, of course, I have a little pouch that has lipstick and lip balm and Advil and stuff like that I might need in a pinch. And then the final thing I have in here is a very little tiny skinny compact power bank. And this one's called Clutch. And I got a pink one because I find that if you have things that are black, you tend to leave them places and you don't see them. But what I like about this one is, besides the fact that it's really skinny, it also has this little thing that plugs into your phone, so you don't need to carry around an extra cord. And this will give you, it'll charge your phone one time completely. And that's what I bring in my purse. For more packing tips, watch this video. Ciao for now.